So basically, the movie opens with Thanos getting the Space Stone, which makes no sense because he's up against Thor, who no longer needs his hammer to channel lightning, Hulk, who is the Hulk, and has had 2 years of experience and training as a gladiator in hand-to-hand combat, Loki, who can create illusions and put you in a mental spell strong enough to completely immobilize Odin, the king of Asgard, and Korg and Heimdall, who are incredibly skilled martial artists with super strength and enhanced durability. There's absolutely no way Captain Nutsack over here with ugly versions of Doctor Strange, Black Widow, Hawkeye and Hulk should be able to defeat them, but okay. Back on Earth, Bruce Banner tells them about Thanos, even though Banner hasn't been conscious since he jumped off the ship in Ragnarok and he has never had access to Hulk's memories. Also, neither he nor Hulk know about Thanos' involvement in the attack on New York, but hey, I guess they just needed a quick exploratory device, so okay. In the middle of the exposition dump, Patrick and Squidward attack New York demanding the Time Stone. Instead of immediately using it to reverse time as he did in his own movie, Doctor Strange just wastes time playing with them until he gets kidnapped. Out in space, the Guardians find Thor and he goes on a side quest to completely undo both the beginning and end of Ragnarok by getting a new hammer and reinstating the premise that he in fact does need a hammer to channel his lightning. So that's nice. Grim Goblin and Neytiri attack Vision and Wanda in Scotland to get Mind Stone, and instead of mind controlling them like she did in Sokovia or giving them anxiety-inducing nightmares like she did in South Africa, she just plays with them and almost gets killed until Captain America comes and saves her and Vision. Back on Squidward's spaceship, Spider-Man shows up and we find out that Squidward is actually deaf because Peter and Tony have a full-on argument at max volume right above him and he doesn't hear any of it. Our heroes arrive on Titan and Doctor Strange tells them that out of the 14,605 alternate timelines that he saw, they only win in one of those outcomes, which makes no sense because if there are infinite timelines, then there are infinite outcomes. That means that there are infinite successful outcomes and there are infinite unsuccessful outcomes. So this 1 in 14 million fiasco is arbitrary, inaccurate and pointless. Thanos lands on Titan and instead of immediately freezing time like he did in his movie, then slicing his arm off, Doctor Strange just wastes time talking to him. Again! When their conversation is over, instead of putting him in a time loop like he did to Dormammu and then forcing him to give up the stones, he proceeds to have a pointless battle with him. When they have him pinned down, instead of creating a giant sword and cutting his arm off, Tony just wastes time playing tug of war with Peter. When Star-Lord finds out Thanos killed Gamora, instead of knocking him out or binding his hands and feet so he can't do anything dangerous, Tony just tells him to relax. And Purple Madness over here ain't off the hook either because the Infinity Stones negate the need for any Thanos related physical conflict, and instead of immediately turning everyone into spaghetti then killing them one by one until Doctor Strange gives up the stone, he engages in pointless hand-to-hand combat with each of the Avengers. But credit where credit is due. In spite of my objective criticism of his actions, Thanos' expert use of the Infinity Stones in conjunction with one another throughout the film needs to be recognized. While interrogating Gamora, he uses telekinesis from the Space Stone to pull Nebula apart and uses the Power Stone to amplify the intensity of the telekinetic force acting on her body. When Tony attacks him with that giant piece of debris, he destroys it with the Power Stone, then uses the Reality Stone to morph those pieces into a horde of winged creatures which he uses to attack Tony. When Tony retaliates with some missiles, he uses the Power Stone to absorb the explosion, then uses the Space Stone to direct those flames back at Tony as some sort of makeshift high-intensity flamethrower. After he breaks free from their vice grip, he uses the Power Stone to break some pieces off from the moon and uses the Space Stone to teleport them to Titan so that he can throw them at Tony. When Doctor Strange tries to trap him in the mirror dimension, he destroys it with the Power Stone, then uses the Space Stone to turn the fragments into a black hole which he hurls at Doctor Strange. When Doctor Strange creates holographic replicas of himself in an attempt to overwhelm and restrain Thanos, he uses the Soul Stone in conjunction with the Power Stone to locate the real Doctor Strange while simultaneously destroying the clones. Then immediately after, he uses the Reality Stone to fold space and matter beneath him while using the Space Stone to draw him closer. The Space Stone already gives him You guys need to understand, the Space Stone already gives him telekinetic abilities, so he didn't need to use the Reality Stone, he just did it for the love of the game. And I don't even want to think about what he was going to do to Stark with the Power, Space, Reality and Soul Stones combined in this scene. Right as Tony is about to get reunited with all his ancestors in every dimension, Doctor Strange foolishly gives up the Time Stone instead of teleporting Thanos away like he did to Thor in Ragnarok, or throwing a portal at him like he did to Loki in Ragnarok, or just trapping him in the mirror dimension while he's distracted. Thanos gets to Earth and Wanda foolishly tries to kill Vision instead of mind controlling Thanos, making him release the gauntlet then calling Thor to slice his head clean off, or just using telekinesis to toss him into the Wakandan shield. Thanos gets the last stone and instead of portaling away when he gets attacked like he did on Titan, or just turning Stormbreaker into bubbles and Thor into spaghetti like he did on Nowhere, he's stands there and just takes an axe to the chest. Then instead of just doubling all the resources and maybe even getting the Avengers to help him on his noble mission, he foolishly kills half of all life in the universe. Doesn't really make any sense, but okay. Anyway, that's it. Subscribe Patreon, give money. Thank you.